this NIL deal, when I think about the big names in Baylor, in the big Baylor donors, the Fudge family, who donated so much money to build the new athletic facility, the Fosters, Paul L. Foster, the Hurds, Mark Hurd obviously is passed away in September of 2019, but his wife Paula is still a very big Baylor supporter. Drayton McClain is up there too. Like that list of names goes on. So there have been people in the past that have said, oh, Baylor athletics, Baylor fans, these boosters don't have enough money. Oh, that's not true. Take a look around campus once or twice next time you're there. Take a look around Waco once or twice. Chip and Joanna Gaines have $1 billion industry in Magnolia. The money is there for NIL, but why is it not being poured into athletes? Why is it not being poured into these brand deals and deals that will get players paid so that Baylor can get a higher caliber of athlete while still valuing the Baylor mission? You can give a kid a little bit more money to play football for you, because if I really value the Baylor mission, but the Baylor mission gives me $30,000 and the Oregon mission gives me $850,000, like, I don't care what your family circumstance is. That's literally a no-brainer. That's an $800,000 difference. And I'm not saying that is exactly what happened in cases like Austin Novosad's, but guys, I can only imagine it's probably pretty close. It's speculatory, yes, but I think that's what it is. So where's the disconnect? Why, of the big money that exists at Baylor, is that not going to the athletes? Build facility after facility, build a welcome center, build this, build that, have the Give Light campaign. You remember the Give Light campaign? Raised $1 billion. Now, tuition has steadily gone up. It's over $50,000 now for just tuition. You have the Give Light campaign. You have all this money being poured into new facilities, and you have billions of dollars that have been donated with tuition still rising. So what are we doing? When can the powers that be decide, take this money that we have and give it to the athletes? One thing that I love, shout out Mark Hurd. Mark Hurd loved tennis. So what did he do? He donated so much money for the Mark and Paula Hurd tennis facility. It is one of the premier, TCU plays tennis at a glorified high school tennis court. Baylor plays at a world-class, renowned facility. The Gettermans, who donated to build Baylor softball stadium and that entire complex, the Turner Riverfront complex, baseball and softball both. Unbelievable amounts of money that went into that. There is so much money there. And there are programs like men's tennis that what am I trying to say? What do the Girl Scouts do? They sell cookies for sponsors. The more sponsors are pouring into men's tennis than football right now. My theory, and I think I could be off base, but I think this is what it is that all of these big and powerful donors that are giving back to Baylor in these capacities, whether it's academics or welcome centers or even, more, even your tier 2 athletics, as the ESPN analysts would call them, your non-football sports, they don't know what it's like to have a good football team. Like, if I was at Baylor from 98 to 2002, I probably wouldn't have gone to very many football games because you knew it was going to happen. It was going to be embarrassing and it wasn't going to be fun. And for the schools like Cal, whose football team sucks, people that are going to the games because, like, look, dude, I can go buy a beer at the game and watch us get hammered while I get hammered. Bada bing. And so whatever. Baylor, you can't do that. You're kind of sitting in misery if the team is bad, which they have been 2 out of the last 4 years. So maybe that's why. Maybe that's why you're not getting these NIL deals from these big, powerful donors, because when they were in school at Baylor, football wasn't necessarily valued, or they didn't feel like football was the apex of the university, or it wasn't putting the university on the map. So is there a commitment to NIL right now? No, I don't see one. I mean, you could hear Baylor say yes, but I've talked to plenty of players and parents that have said Baylor's behind the punch in NIL. I've talked to national analysts that say Baylor's behind the punch in NIL, that Baylor's behind the punch in recruiting because there's just not that extra fire, that extra spark. And Maybe that comes from a history of not being an elite program in college football. Like, there's a reason Nebraska sucks so hard, but still has such impeccable NIL money, is because they've got history in football dating back to the Tom Osborne era. Baylor's got Grant Taft, but they were never at a national championship level. And you're seeing that unfold right before your eyes. I think TCU is in a very similar spot until they got to this college football playoff, where I can't imagine their NIL deals match anything close to Georgia. I can't imagine they do. But now this team's good. They're going to invest in NIL. They're going to make the decision to pour donor money back into student athletes. I want to know, when is that decision made for Baylor? Does it take going to a national championship in football for the road to flip there? Does it take winning another national championship in basketball? Like, if I'm an athlete, there's a line. There is a, yes, I want to go somewhere that's person over player. I want to go somewhere where I can grow as a man. That's me. I check that box. But if I can also go somewhere that's like, hey, we want to help you grow as a man, we're also going to give you $800,000. Why wouldn't you do that? When will Baylor say, we'll do that too? We'll do that too. And this whole idea of, I hate seeing college kids get paid. I hate that it's gotten as big as it has. There should be more regulations than there are, and there are a lot of ins and outs and things like that. So there are players, to kind of peel back the curtains a little bit. There are players who are not represented by an agent, by an NIL agent, who are going and signing NIL deals for cash. There are players that are committing tax fraud without knowing they're committing tax fraud, and that's not okay. There's not an overarching the regulation to stop a lot of what's happening on that side of college football. So there needs to be a stop. But at the same time, if you are anti-pay players, then what's this all been about anyway? Because these players are making millions and millions of dollars for their universities every year, and they don't see a dime. So if that star quarterback for your team who makes $500,000 in NIL deals actually presents $500,000 worth of play for your program, then he is getting paid $500,000, but someone else is getting that money. Circa 5 years ago, that's how it was going. So I think these players getting paid big amounts is fine, in that they are making that money for their university. It's not the strength and conditioning coach that should receive the $1 million that this player is generating in jersey sales out of your front office. I think that's objective, that everybody would agree with that. And so players getting paid is not a bad thing. This is not some kind of like unethical, like, oh, this guy's getting paid at Baylor. Like, we're Baylor. We're person over player. We're not going to pay you. No, you've got to jump on the NIL bus. You've got to be out ahead of the NIL bus before anything else.